All right, hey everybody. So today we have Jade Wimpey on. She's from Analytic Visions, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Right.
nice. Yep, got the shirt. You can't get it wrong, right?
I can represent.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I love talking Tableau, so I'll talk your ear off.
All right, let's remember we don't want to talk too much though. We'll get this.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, tell me about your Tableau journey. Where did it all start?
So, again, hey guys, I'm Jade. Excited to be here. But I currently live in Greenville, South Carolina, just right outside the city. I started using Tableau in 2017 while I was at grad school at Clemson University. And I was super lucky because where I was interning, I got to work with Matt Chambers, who's a former Tableau visionary. And so he was all about it. I got to see what he did and learn from him. And so, he asked me, he's like, have you ever used Tableau? I was like, I've never heard of that in my life. I'm from a small town. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
But I picked it up, loved it.
And that was during your intern?
Yeah, that was when I was an intern.
You got lucky? How you do that?
I did. Yeah, no kidding.
And you didn't even know what Tableau was, and you had them?
Yeah, if you would have asked me in high school, like, Jade, are you going to grow up to be a data analyst to do Viz? Yeah. I'll be like, what are you talking about? But anyway, so he helped me out a lot, and I did my first Tableau Viz, published it to Tableau Public, and it was about the CBS show Big Brother. Okay. It's like Survivor, but they're all in a house. Yeah. So I did that just because it was something people told me, it was like, just Viz something you love, something you're into. And that's what I was into at the time. And super cool. I got Viz of the day for that Viz. Nice. And was like, what? So I don't know. It just took off from there. So I worked at Clemson in the finance office doing Tableau visualizations, reporting, analysis, stuff like that for about 3 years. And then I moved to consulting with Analytic Vision in 2021. Mm-hmm. So now I'm here doing Tableau all the time.
But your whole career has been Tableau then, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. And what did you go to school for? Like, did you go for analytics? Were you come in this direction, or you were like, I'm doing psychology and I'm going to do this now?
So my undergrad was communications, and I thought I wanted to do like production or maybe graphic design or something. So that's where Matt connected with me, actually. He saw some graphic design stuff I've done, and he was like, oh, you might be good at Tableau because it pulls in the design and the analytics, which I'd been getting through my finance internship. It was like the perfect bridge of the two. But in grad school, I just did business administration because I really didn't know what I wanted to do yet. And that's when I got plugged into Tableau. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all good skills to have. You got to know the business, you got to communicate the analytics, and have the visual. And I was just talking to Sheed, and I was telling him, like, when I do trainings, it's I'll have like the IT people, the analytics people, and then I'll have like some just real quiet people from marketing, right? And the analytics people and IT people are all like pumped. They're like, yeah, we would get to this. And like, I'll even tell people, like, look, probably like out of all the people, these little quiet marketing people got to kill you off Tableau, because it's usually like those people that can do you're better at Tableau when you can do the graphic design and stuff. Like, you could do the analytics. It's all usually simple analytics when it comes down to it. Like, we're not doing advanced stuff most of the time.
We're not doing predictive analytics over here. Yeah.
No, so it's super easy analytics. So if you can have the design and graphic side, you can learn the super simple analytics easily. So usually those people are a lot better in Tableau than the analytics IT people, which they think they're going to be good, but they really suck at
it. Yeah. Sometimes when you're so deep in the analytics, it's hard to step back and it's like, wait, what's the story I'm telling with this? And so your communications, marketing, even psychology people, like you said, are better at framing the story with the data.
For sure. Yeah. And people, like analytics people, get so frustrated, with it's like, yeah, the analytics are like badass, but like nobody wants to look at it, and then if nobody wants to look at it, then it's like, all right, your analytics are nice, but nobody cares.
What does it mean? What does it matter? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. So when you're getting data from dashboards, you're doing consulting, right? I mean, like me, I usually somebody has some data and they're like, I don't know what to do with it. Figure it out. What's your process when the client gives you data? Kind of what's your overview of it?
So I actually have kind of an outline that I've shared a few times with multiple people.
All right.
Can I share that with you?
You want to show? Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. All right. Can you see my window?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is all my blog and stuff, but basically what I do when I'm thinking about business dashboards, so people who are coming to us in consulting, regardless of the industry, I usually start with an initial dashboard discovery meeting, and then we'll talk business questions, that kind of thing. And then we talk data sources, then we talk wireframing, then we'll like actually start building the dashboard. But that's high level. I'll scroll down a little bit. But so first thing I do with the client is a dashboard discovery is kind of what we call it. We talk about who's your audience. That's like what I was saying earlier. You've got data, but okay, why are we using it? Who are you trying to show this data to? What question are you answering? So first we look at audience. I talk with them through that because it could be multiple, that kind of thing. What are your business questions? What are you trying to answer? What's the use case? And then the key metrics, like you're saying with the data, what do we really want to show? Do we need to do any calculations based off of these? And then key features are really the UX. What do you want a user to be able to do with this dashboard? Because sometimes people just want an infographic type thing. And sometimes they're like, nope, I need to start high level for my execs and then drill down into maybe even row level detail for analysts that are going to be pulling the data and using it for other things and for value.
Yeah, and I think this part is like the most important as far as me. I mean, especially when you're doing consulting, right? It's getting this right in the beginning saves a lot of time up front, right? So that you don't have 10, 15 different versions, right? Like I usually can knock out, usually my first version is very close to my final version, just my, a couple of little edits, because I'm like drilling the hell out the client in the beginning, making sure I understand exactly what he wants, and making sure it makes sense, right? So like I was in the last podcast, I was telling him like I get paid up front as far as my consulting, because like when I'm doing these calls, they probably hate me at the end of these calls because I'm on them. I'm like, all right, you want this? Why do you want it? If you can't tell me why you want it, then we're not putting it all there. Like I'm very like upfront, straightforward, like, because otherwise you're gonna have me creating all this stuff and you're not even gonna need it or want it. So like I'm like, all right, show me what's important. Tell me why it's important. If you can't explain why that's important for this dashboard or this goal, then it doesn't need to be on here. And a lot of people just, I think, like are just kind of like, yes man type people, where it's just like, all right, yeah, you want this, and they're sitting there like, that don't make no sense, like, but and then they build it and then they see it doesn't make sense and then they got to redo it and then they redo it 20 times, right? Exactly. So I think like, especially like being a consultant, is like, all right, that doesn't make sense. If you could tell me why that makes sense and make me believe you, then okay. Otherwise, let's put that on a different dashboard or something. Yes. So I think this initial part saves a lot of time for you and the client.
Exactly. It's going to save time, money, like, and just get everyone on the same page. Like you were talking about when you meet, you've got IT, analytics, marketing, it's when you have this initial discovery, it's better to have key players and then even expand that a little bit more. Who else might use this? Who else might use this? So at least everyone's on the same page too, because I don't know, like a director might want something out of this that an analyst doesn't. And doing a discovery helps you figure out how to meet in the middle, but it saves.
And so I actually kind of take a different approach. I usually try to get only one person on the call, because when you have all the people in the call, and depending on if like all the people are not the end user, like I just want the person that's using it, like. Because then you get like IT and different, and then they all got their little things that they're trying to throw in there, which the end user don't really need. You know what I mean? So like I try to just clear all that. Like I'll have a meeting with them to understand it, but like I just want to talk to the user and what you want, because I find it when I do group calls like that, everybody has a little different input, and then the end user, if the end user is not like a C-level, sometimes they kind of just sit back and just like, all right, whatever y'all say, depending on their personality, and it's not even really what they need, and sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, there's just dominant personalities that just take over and just won't stop talking. And I'm like, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to him, because there's just people like that are just like, well, I think you should do this, this, and this. And I'm like, all right, but you're not using it. So let me talk to the person using it.
No,
So
I
yeah, but
agree.
I mean, it's all different ways of doing it. That's the reason podcast is learning everybody's different ways.
No, I agree. You're right. The focus, you can have multiple people in this, but they need to be the end users at this point,
Yeah.
like figuring out that's where your focus needs to be. I agree.
For sure.
Then the next part that I do is the data source modeling. That's when you bring in your IT, your data engineers, that kind of thing. You know what the client wants, you know what the end users need to see. How the heck do we set that up? I won't hit too high on this, but basically as a Tableau visualizer, you kind of know based on what visuals need to be built and what the data needs to look like. So you work with your engineer to make sure that happens. Sometimes they have all the data ready, sometimes they don't, sometimes it needs to be transformed. And so we usually focus on that a little bit.
That's always a fun part, getting that data ready.
Yes.
It's usually they think they got it ready and they don't. So it's
exactly.
like, that's like a whole process. And I'm like, all right, talk to me when you get the data ready. I can't do nothing to you. Because that's never fun. And then especially, like, it's data needs to be structured in a certain way for Tableau too. So they might have a structure to where they think, and I'm like, that's not going to work. We gotta revisit this.
Or my favorite is, can we just put dummy data in there for now? And you're like, no.
Right. Yeah, no, because it's so much rework. It's because it's like we don't even know, because a lot of times I have no clue what chart I'm going to use until I see the data in it, and I'm like, nah, that doesn't look good. I'm not using this chart, and I'll switch it up. So it's like you're almost doing double the work, because without the data in it, I can't see how it's going to really play its layout.
Sorry, I'm gonna apologize. I thought I had this.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, good. So how much time do you spend on this whole data modeling part?
That part, it just depends on the client. Sometimes you get like really lucky and the data's already looks good, but it's usually a lot of back and forth, because just like with any project, as you show them the dashboard, and they're going to want a little bit more. And so usually, oh gosh, it's hard to say. It depends on the client exactly how much time.
You might just got one Excel or sheet, or you might have, a huge database.
Exactly. Yeah. Like sometimes we use a lot of Snowflake data connections, Athena, it's usually not just straight Excel files. If it's Excel, that's usually when it's easy.
Yeah. Cool.
My favorite part though, that I do next, when designing dashboards, is wireframing. That's where you're just basically drawing a template of what the dashboard is going to look like. We use Miro, and we have a template here that we sometimes use that's like low fidelity. Okay, what are your KPIs that you're looking at? What's your first business question, second business, third, and then maybe some filters that you want to have. We walk them through that, and then that kind of turns into something.
So, all right, question. Going back to that.
Sure.
So you build this and then show it to them before you build the dashboard? I
do. Okay, it depends. So sometimes, if from that initial conversation where we've talked through everything about like your business question, whatever, I'll skip this one step. But sometimes we have meetings where it's like, okay, here's your dashboard. Where do you want to put things? But I found that like this sometimes gives them a better idea of like, okay, here are our key metrics we want to look at. Here's a little layout of what that might look like. But sometimes I've found that like we'll skip low fidelity and I'll just go straight to medium fidelity and then work with a client to refine it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't do, I mean, I've pretty much everybody on podcast does something similar to this, but I don't do it because I don't know what I'm going to do until I do it. Like, it's like, I have a hard time. Like if I did probably something like this, my in dashboard probably look completely different, because like I said, I'm playing with the data. Like I'm saying, all right, this is going to work with this. All right, I need something like this. Like it's to me, it's like a discovery thing while I'm building, and it's hard. Like I have an idea, but it's I have no clue what I'm gonna build up front, and so like for me, this seems like it would like like I said, for me it would be completely different. Like I would change it almost every time, it seems like. So do you find yourself doing this and actually sticking to it, like actually doing it, like finishing it, and it looks almost exactly like you did in the beginning of the meeting, or do you switch it off a lot?
So sometimes really like the layout might change. So first business question, I want to see my sales over time. like we know we're going to have an element of sales over time somewhere. This is what this one kind of does. But to your point of where it's like, I've got this box, and a line chart, pie chart, that changes a little bit. But we've kind of learned if we give the client something just to see, even in a screenshot form, that saves more time than building it all on Tableau and tweaking it, since Tableau is harder to like place things with spacing and stuff like that. So if I show them, after hearing their thoughts and everything, if I show them something like this, that's like, okay, that answers what questions I need. I've got my filters. This is my medium fidelity wireframe. Tableau is going to look something like this. Colors may change, graph types may change. We might add some stuff here, but I do tend to generally follow that same layout.
Does it take you a lot of time to build these up front before?
Not for me, because I use Miro. Like, this is a screenshot from the internet. This is Miro's chart, Miro chart. So it's more just like copy paste and, little icons. So like, if I just kind of have those ready on hand, I can pull them in and build the wireframe with the client. And that helps too. They're like, oh, we don't need a map. Move that off. Put a stacked bar here instead. That's
I think I see the chart. It just says like title 1, 2, 3. Like, so the chart is just, you're just saying like, I'm gonna put a bar chart here. It's just not necessarily. Okay. I see.
It's just to help them get a better understanding of what could be without actually building it. You may not even have the data yet, So like what, like example, like that bar chart there. I mean, I can't see it great, but it looks like that could be like something by year, right? Would you like just put a bar chart there, or try to find a bar chart that's kind of similar to what you're trying to do? You know what I mean? It depends. If a client asks for something specific that I have seen before in Tableau, like if they want a radial chart or something, I'll like Google radial chart real quick and just slap one in there. Like, it's obviously not going to be the same colors and stuff, but it really is just to get a visual representation of what it can be. Like Tableau's map doesn't look like that. So that's cool. Yeah. So we go from very low fidelity, where maybe we just have business questions. They're like, okay, we like it. Low fidelity wireframe. When I put this in Tableau, it's going to have this flow, this look and feel with these with this type of data. And then that's when I start building, and I'll kind of hit this for a minute. We do get some feedback, obviously, in between that we've been talking about, like maybe we need to add company colors, logo, all that. And so there can be iterations of wireframes. Like for some clients, we literally might wireframe tons until they're like, okay, good, we like that one, now build it. Or other times I'll start with a wireframe like this, and then it's all the other changes are done in Tableau. It's really kind of client specific.
Got it. And you think that saves a lot of time doing it like that compared to just building it and changing it in Tableau?
So at first I used Figma to do all this wireframing, and I thought that was too much time. Because nothing is out of the box. Like, it's very much for true design, like blank canvas. Miro saves me a lot of time because it's very similar to PowerPoint, where I could drop in a pretend bar chart, pretend pie chart, icons. Like it's very much they have like a little wireframe app to where like I could put these drop downs and everything. So I found that that's way easier and faster. I prefer Miro over Figma in that aspect. But they both have pros and cons.
Got it. Yeah, I guess for me it's just it's just the time, like doing all that up front and then having to do it again in Tableau. Like I said, I mean, it's probably a great idea. It's just like, I would rather just like, all right, I got it done. All right. But I also, like I said, I also don't get, like, since I'm so hard in that initial meeting, I'm usually like, I'm usually my first draft is pretty close, and that's with everybody's different, but usually my first draft is really close. I don't ever get like a totally dramatic, like, all right, this first draft and it's something totally like different. It's usually just, all right, move this, delete this to this. Like, it's super simple usually with my second and third edit. So like, I don't really feel like for me, I don't think it's worth that time to do that. But I can see if people are like struggling with understanding the business need and coming up with the design, this probably would save them time, doing it this way, if they're not that good at translating it the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it helps clients in that way. But for me as a Tableau Viz, if a person comes in and they're like, I want this crazy radial chart that's like that's not native Tableau, and then you spend all that time building it and they're like, just kidding, it's too complicated to understand, we don't want it. It's like to me, that took more time from the dev side. So it just depends. I think that's why I like doing these first. It's like, because do you really need that? Do you really need these elements, because the juice may not be worth the squeeze, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I usually, so when I go into my meetings, I would usually, even in my prospect calls, I tell them, I'm like, I really don't like being told which charts to build. like you tell me the business problem and then just let me at it. Like, I don't want to be told what to do, because it just limits you. You know, you're just stuck in this, like you said, you're building something that you think they want and they don't even want it. So like legit on prospect calls, on sale calls, I'd be like, I just like, give me the data. And some people like it, some people don't, you know, but I think most people just like, I don't want to think, just do it. And if you kind of tell them up front, like, all right, just give me your goal, let me at it. Usually, at least in my opinion, it usually works out. Because I try to build something that somebody thought about when they're not even in the field. It's kind of like, it just, like you said, you don't really know what you don't know. And it just makes things a lot complicated to me.
I hear you on that one. Some clients, like we have one client that's very consistent and their dashboards have to have the same look. And so they like the consistency and they want me to show wireframe by wireframe so it is consistent with all of their prior dashboards. But I have a similar story. I had a client who was like, we want a map and we want this chart and this chart, and like put it out there. Well, so I did that, like basically took the data, built it in Tableau, gave them what they want. But like kind of what you're saying, they're hiring us for data viz best practices. So they weren't happy with it. So I just kind of scrapped that and did like what I thought would look good, like more modern and based on other things I've seen in the industry or whatever. And like took my own design, showed it to them, and they're like, oh, we want that one. You know, that one looks better. So you're right. Like that's what they're hiring us for, is for this data viz design. So sometimes you just got to find that balance, and it's definitely a struggle. Like I said, with that client, like unfortunately we did lose time because of that back and forth, but you know, they thought they knew what they wanted in the beginning.
So. Yeah. But I think a lot of that is setting them up in the beginning to like to know what to expect. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Probably like that client probably would have hired me, right? They're probably like, I'm not hiring this guy. It's probably why I don't get those clients, but because like I'm telling them up front, like this is how I do things, and some people appreciate it, some people don't. But yeah, I would, like me personally, I would hate having to create these wireframes over and over again.
I love it.
I would be so mad. Well, I just felt like I would be wasting so much time doing it. And like it's just, especially if they're telling me what to do, and I'm just sitting here like, man, I know that's gonna look like, you know, like, but all right, you want me to do it? Like I had one client where they wanted, like they were making me do stuff, and even though they were like, oh, I'm paying you, but like, yeah, you pay me, but I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? Like just because you're paying me doesn't mean anything. And I told him that. I mean, he got a little mad at me, but I was just like, yeah, but this is like, you're just wasting my time right now. Like, yeah, you pay me, but it's still my time. Like, I'd rather be doing something else worthwhile, you know? So yeah, I hate doing stuff that I just know is not going to work out, but they're just like, yeah, we're paying you, go ahead and do it. It's like, all right, well, I'm not doing this contract no more.
Yeah, I feel like AV, we strive to find clients who are willing to work with us a little bit better. You know, like they obviously want their input, but you know, they're hiring us because we're supposed to have the best practices, and so like there has to be a give and take. Because I'm like you, it would be no point if they just hired us and they told us exactly what to do. Like through these wireframes, they say what they want, and I'm like, oh, that will look good in a bar chart. Oh, that would be best visualized in a density map or whatever. But this is just how to show them virtually, because that's another struggle that we've had. It's like you're not in a conference room drawing on a whiteboard anymore. You're showing them this, and you're having to do it through a screen. So we found that that's helpful too. But
and I call it, like when I'm in prospect calls, I'll be like, this is about picking your favorite artist. Like you like some people, you won't like some people. It's literally picking your favorite. So like I'll just show my dashboards and I'll be like, if you like my designs, then you go with me. If you like someone else, then I go with them. There's no necessarily right and wrongs. It's just picking your favorite artist essentially, and you know how you like to work. So yeah, it's completely different with everybody.
So funny. Well, but I'll just show you, like, in the end, this is what, like, this example looked like. So it definitely changed, but essentially kind of had the same
That looks way different. What do you mean?
The map is in the same spot. You got your top countries, but it's just a better viz. Like, I got to have more fun with my charts and my graphs and stuff.
Okay. But it sounds like you're more using it as like, this is the layout and this is what we're doing. It's not necessarily like you're mocking a whole thing up.
It depends on what level. Like, you start low fidelity, and like I said, you get higher and higher fidelity. But sometimes you don't need that higher. Like, what's the point of building out all the little dots in a wireframe?
Is this your final dashboard in Tableau, or this is like your final mock-up?
This is final dashboard in Tableau. So like, I might go from this guy to this. So I've got my low fidelity, medium fidelity wireframe. Now I'm building it in Tableau, get to do the creative stuff that I've been wanting to do this whole time.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. And as far as references, what do you said the program's called Miro?
Miro, yes.
I mean, resources, not references. Resources. You said Miro is the one you use. Anything else you use? As far as, coming up with design styles, color palettes, all that good stuff.
Let's see. So this is my Tableau public. So first of all, backing up a second, I use Miro and I use Figma. But Tableau mostly. I have a little thing that are some common data viz charts and graphs and why you would use them. But I always recommend, I'll stop sharing for a second. I always recommend, okay, you see me?
Yep.
Sorry. Storytelling data. If you haven't read this, I mean, it's just the best go-to. It's tool agnostic, but it tells you exactly like your data viz best practices, when to use certain charts and graphs, when to use color, when to use text, when not to use text, where to put text. It's just
the whole psychology behind it.
Yes, I love that book. I reference it and use it all the time.
Nice.
But
and I don't think people pay attention enough to that stuff. Like I said, I think people are good in the analytics and all that, but they don't realize that's only 20% of Tableau, right? Yeah. So it is a whole nother side of it that I think people just don't. I think they don't even know they don't know about it. Because that was one thing, coming from analytics to this. Luckily, my dad's a professional painter, so even though I can't paint, I had like the artistic kind of just in my DNA. But yeah, I didn't know about all the psychology behind colors and color theory and all that.
And where your eyes go, like when the color pops and stuff, or like when you're overstimulated. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
But I also recommend the Tableau Public Discover section. Visit the Day is good. But especially when it comes to like my client dashboards, I'll come here and look at the business dashboards. Sometimes I may not love the designs, but I like to see, one of like the minimalist look, what people are doing, how they might be representing data in a different way, or just like pops of color. Like I know dark dashboards were in, but now I'm seeing a lot of the bright, like Vigna colors or whatever. But this is a really good resource.
And do you go in here like before every dashboard that you make, or you just kind of once in a while when you're bored, like kind of how often do you go discovering?
Well, and if you're not on Twitter yet and you're in the Twitter community, you got to get in the Tableau Data Fam community, because like sometimes I'll just scroll and people are always posting their new dashboards, and that's helpful. But usually I come in here when I have a new client and they're looking for, depending on what they're looking for, I'll try to come in here and see what other people are doing. Like if it's related to HR, I'll look around in here, and like you can also search and just type in human resource dashboards and just do it that way. I did that recently for a subscription dashboard because I never built one before. So I was like, all right, what are most people looking at? Why would they want to look at a certain metric? And how are they visualizing it? But
nice. Yeah, I don't use this much. I got to use this more often for sure.
Oh yeah, this is amazing. And they've totally vamped it up. Like it used to just show visit the day and that's it. But now they've got all these different topics and stuff. So it's pretty neat.
Cool.
And I have a few favorites on my favorites on my Tableau Public. There's Kevin Flerlich has a Tableau chart catalog. That is awesome. I like this one because bar charts can be boring because they've been around for so long, but That's the psychology. Like that's what people are used to seeing and they understand them quickly. So it's good for storytelling. But if you want to show them in unique ways, this bar hopping by Jeffrey Schaefer is really good. He just has all these different ways to do bar charts in Tableau that might be a little unique and visually more modern.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like this one.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna steal some of this stuff for sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, look, everyone thinks I'm doing it for them. I'm really doing it for me. All right, cool. So you got, what about colors? How do you come up with colors? I'm always curious on how people come up with their color palettes.
So business dashboards, I'm usually stuck to their branding. But when I do it for fun, I really like for my Viz to really coincide and represent the data. So like for my gardening Viz, the gardener's planting guide, this really is just showing you based on where you live and when you're planting, how you want to plant. It's going to show you what plants can grow. But I really wanted this to look like plants were growing out of the ground because it was based on veggies. So that's how I picked my colors and my different scheme and my fonts and stuff for this one. And
so what about like when businesses just give you a logo? Like how do you come up with a color palette when you just got like one primary color?
So the minimalist way to go now is like lots of whites, grays, and pops of that color. If there's not too much on the dashboard, I'll try to use that one color and have it pop. But if not, I use, what is it called? Colors, I think. It's like a British thing. It's like a color generator. Info. Here it is, yeah. So I'll type in their, give me cookies. I'll type in their color palette. So maybe it's this Dutch white. And then you can use this and hit the space bar and like find different colors that might go with it. And if I'm like, oh, I like this blue with it, which I don't know if I do or not, you can save that and find some more. That's a good place to start. I know there's other websites
then,
like this.
But from there, it's just eyeballing it.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Sorry, can you say me?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh gosh.
One second, I think my headset popped off.
Okay. I was like, oh no.
Okay, say something.
Can you hear me?
Nope. All right, one second.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm back. I think I was talking and you couldn't hear you talking.
Oh, okay.
All right, sorry. We'll just cut that out. All right. So, what was the last thing I said that you heard?
You asked me. So, like, I was.
Oh, can you eyeball it?
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
So, like, all right. Go back to the. Can you go back to your screen real quick?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So when you have this here, you have the primary and you're in a space. Like, how do you decide which one it is? Do you just visually just pick the one you like?
I do. Yeah. I kind of follow my heart on this.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you do?
Yeah. No, I eyeball it, I guess. But it's hard because there's like certain, like, especially it depends on their colors. Like some companies just have horrible colors to start off with, you know? So it's I kind of like the darker shading colors, or like the more like the pastels more sometimes. Like it's weird because sometimes I like it in one dashboard, then I don't like it in the dashboard. It's like I think it's just a feeling. It's just like I think this goes or this doesn't go, and it probably depends on the company too. Like depending on what the company does, it makes my mood change a little bit with how I pick the colors. But yeah, I don't have I think that. The color palette is kind of hard for me. I don't have a science behind it. It's really just I play with some colors until I like it.
Yeah, I've found sometimes I'll spend a little too much time on color and I have to take a step back. Like I'll just use Tableau's auto colors until I build what I want, and then I'll start changing colors because I may make it look pretty in one viz, but when it's on the dashboard, I'm like, oh, I hate it. You know, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
So, but then again, I kind of just steal from the gallery. Like if I see that, oh, these colors look really good in red, and that's the client's colors. You know, red might not be my first pick, but it just helps with the inspiration. I know.
I mean, I like it, but I hate it on dashboards.
I know.
And a lot of clients have red logos or like red in the logos, and it's just red is just so hard to work with. Just to me, I can't find a lot of colors to make it look good without it just being too dominant. You know,
that's where I would try to like fade everything into like grays, you know, lighter colors or the pastels, like you were saying, and then have your pops of red if you have to.
Yeah.
Black, white, and red.
Yeah, at JLL as a client, and there was this black, white, and red, and it's just like every dashboard was just like so hard. And then but I started doing the transparency and just kind of like just pulling it, drawing all the way back. Because if usually anything red, I always transparency. I always add that a lot to it. Yeah, it's so hard on the eyes. All right, cool. Any must dos in your dashboards? Like I talked to Nasheed earlier, and he was like, he focuses a lot on tooltips, and I was like, man, I don't focus on tooltips at all because it's like it's just it's just like the time you spend on it, and it's just people don't look at it that much. It's just like, especially if they just, because a lot of times it's time restrictions, like, all right, I need this dashboard today, and like you know, I don't really spend too much time on unnecessary stuff that is not value added. So unless they like this is going on a website or something, you know, where like end users are using it, then I'll just use their default tooltips because it's not that much value added because they want me to work on something else. You know what I mean? Okay. So it's a lot of the time management of what's really important. Like, all right, do you want me to spend an extra hour on these tooltips, or do you want me to do this other dashboard, right? And then a lot of times they're not really worried about the tooltips because especially if it's an internal dashboard. So like his thing was like the tooltips. Like, what is your must dos when it comes to Tableau?
That's so funny because I'll have to agree with him. Our clients. Like one client we have, they love tooltips and they all want to tool it the same, and they want Viz and tooltips. And like my Iron Viz submission, some of the feedback was like, wow, this girl actually paid attention to her tooltips. Like they were so formatted.
Yeah.
So some people are sticklers for it. For me, I think going back to the whole reason you're doing this, where it's like it's for an intended audience. You've been staring at this dashboard for forever. People who are looking at it the first time haven't. So having directions with your titles, like maybe if it's, you know, map of sales, you would still say click to filter by state. You might have an info with tooltip that has data definitions, you know, just kind of giving direction and adding any tips or ways to make it easier for them, I think is very important. So people actually use it.
And like I said, it's also your audience too, because it depends on like if you're building this for this one person that he's only going to use it, then you don't really need it. But if you're building it for, you know, somebody that's you're building it, and then like 100 random people are going to go in and log in, then you need it. So like, I mean, like you said, you got to come. It has to be custom for every situation, you know, depending on who that is. Yeah.
Yep, you always got to be good with the end in mind.
I guess it sounds like I need to pay more attention to tooltips. Maybe everybody's outvoting me on this tooltip thing. Yeah. But
we're just turning them off.
In my defense, no, I have. But in my defense, I haven't had people say like, I want nice tooltips, you know what I mean? So it's like, so that's why I was talking to him. I was like, all right, but if no one's asking you for it, then are you doing this for you? Or are you doing this for them? You know? Well, so it's like,
so sometimes the data we were showing was a little confusing. So instead of just saying, well, it's not confusing when I use the example, but like sales, this number, profit, this number, we would make it a sentence. Like in the month of March, you know, your company had this much in sales, or we, you know, gained this much. Like making it a sentence is also helpful, and just something different that you can do
for the complicated ones.
Yeah.
But like for example, like just a simple bar chart, right? You got like segment, and then you got average price. Like I don't. To me, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to go like. But he was like, man, I do it all of them. I was like, all right,
no,
hey, that's your time. But yeah, everybody has their own little thing, and that's what I said. It's an art. It's how you do it. It could be you do it for you because this is your art and you want it to be like that, and that's how you do it. So, and that's the crazy part of Tableau is it's everybody has their own thing. It's all depending on what you like, and then like you might decide what the clients like, but you're building this dashboard for you, really. You know what I mean? Because there's times where like I build a dashboard and I hate it. I'll be like, nah, man, we got to change this up a little bit. like I can't give you this because it just looks ugly. Like it's just or like the colors or something. Like it's just like I don't want my name on this. Like it almost you're forgetting. Like I said, sometimes I forget they're paying me because I'm like, no, you can't have this. It's not good enough. Yeah, I'm not putting my name on this.
Oh geez.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other design tips and tricks outside of your must do's?
Oh, I have a little like Tableau tip I could share if you want.
Yeah, let's see it.
Let's see here. Okay, so everybody has seen, a KPI dashboard. You've got your sales. I'm using Superstore, profit ratio, sales over time. These are all text, and so when you click them, you get this blue rim around it. It just highlights it blue. I'm using a parameter action to swap these around, but that light blue in this example, my client doesn't like that color. That's not in their color palette. They don't want it. It doesn't look good with my pinks and golds and greens. I hate it. So,
and that's just the standard light blue when you click on something, right?
Right. Yep. This happens when you click on, I don't know exactly all the viz types, but definitely text. You're going to get this blue line around it. And so there are solutions out there that will work across any kind of viz to remove the highlight. But I have a tip that will work specifically for text or like your KPIs. So right now you click, it's blue, we hate it. You can actually change this to a shape. And right now it looks like that's not showing, but you want to make sure that this is set to the shape that's a square with it, the center in the middle. Make sure my label.
The field.
White. That's what's wrong. Text. I want to make sure that that's black. You can actually see it. So the not filled square outline shape, and then
you want it not filled.
Not filled. Yes.
Okay.
And then you just make it really big to where the lines fall off of the screen. They're still technically there, but they're just hidden because it's bigger than the size of the viz. And so that when you go back to your viz, they won't highlight anymore. And then you could just click and it'll swap. Got
it. Okay. Yeah. So that's all these little loopholes in Tableau.
I know. There's so many just ways to hack things.
I know. I mean, I love it, but it's for beginner. Like it's just one of those things where it's just like, man, like it's gonna take you a while to be good at this. Like, well, can we be this good? It is. You can learn as much as you think you can try to learn within a month or two, but it just takes time because these little hacks just. For sure. And the crazy part is they come out with new stuff all the time. And it's so hard to keep track of everything. It's like I'll go through them and I'm just like, all right, which one is kind of relevant? Because some stuff it's like, yeah, that's cool, but like I'm not going to use that. So I kind of, every release I kind of go through and play with it. But they come out with so much stuff. It's crazy how that dev team just releases stuff constantly.
I know. That's another reason it's good to get on Twitter, because people will say they'll share your Tableau tips, something you could be struggling with. It's like someone's got a hack for it, or you can pose a question. It's like, I don't know how to wrap my labels or whatever, and someone will comment and be like, "Oh,
and what was that Twitter called?"
So I mean, just Twitter. You it's
you like follow a hashtag or something.
Hashtag DataFam, Tableau, any of those. Here, I'll show you another example. This one I saw recently. Jackie Moore posted it. Back in April. She's like, what's something in Tableau you learned, you thought, how did I not know about this before? And so all these people started commenting, saying like, I didn't know you could type on the label marks card. You don't have to create a calculated field. And so, you can click and drag to remove reference lines. If you're new at Tableau, you may not know what a lot of this means, but if you've been doing Tableau for a little while, I read so many of these and was like, what? This is going to save me a lot of time.
No, for sure. Yeah, and there's times where like I'll do trainings and then like a student would do something, I'm like, dang, I didn't know you could do that. Like, hey, show me that again. Because there's like 10 ways of doing anything, you know? So it's like you're, especially like you're just so stuck on your one way and you're like, you could do that way too. Like sometimes you have no idea just because you don't look for it. It's just like, I know how to do it, but they're like, but you could do this 10 different ways too.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you don't know that you might have found it quickly, but other people don't know it's a thing because it's not,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that you don't know what you don't know in Tableau. And like you said, I'm still learning all the time. It's crazy. It's great. And I feel like sometimes they release some stuff and don't say nothing because I'd be like, hey, I don't remember it doing this. Yeah. It'll just be like this little menu thing over here. I'm like, I've never seen that before. Like, I don't know. When they be trying to trick us sometimes.
For real. I think that's where they troll for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Last question. Anything that you think, like, kind of, it's really that blog or that Twitter thing that she had, right? It was like anything that you think like developers don't pay enough attention to.
Like I said before, did we kind of answer that already with the remember your audience and stuff? What do you mean?
Yeah, well, like
tricks.
Like functionality. Like I think that was in the sheets. Like he was like they don't pay attention enough to functionality of like you can make things like he was like actions. You click on this and then that features this and then it is this. Like they don't do enough around actions or they what is another good one? Design or like layout, like having like KPIs and then having different things. Like what's one thing you think people, because a lot of people come straight from analytics, so they don't know what they don't know. So what's one thing you think, like if you could tell one person, pay attention to this, what would that be? The most value added?
Oh man, I got to end off with a bang over here.
Come on. Most value added. If you could only tell someone, all right, you got all your charts, make sure you do this one thing. And then you at least be okay. You won't get fired.
Okay. I think once your dashboard's in good place, you're in love with it, you should get someone else to look at it internally on your team. You need to get feedback. Maybe someone, a teammate or whatever that hasn't seen it before, doesn't even know anything about the industry. I like to have people at AV do that so they can see like, I think I know what you're trying to do here. Is that what that means? And if it's confusing to them, it could be confusing to your end users. Probably not because they're going to know a little bit more. But when I submitted my Iron Viz, I had some of my teammates look at it and they helped me so much because I thought I was telling the story in a logical way. But they were like, wait, there's no good transition here. You need to add something. And that getting feedback from others and just doing things as a team a little bit can provide a lot of value.
And do you pick who do you show it to? Do you you show it to other Tableau people, or do you show it to completely because your end user's not gonna be Tableau people, right? So do you show Tableau people, or you show just completely random people that don't even use Tableau?
So I found that kind of like you said earlier, pick one or two people. Don't drop it in your whole team's chat and have everyone come back with feedback. That's too much. I usually pick. A lot of us are Tableau people, so it's hard. So usually it is someone.
Everyone's Tableau.
Everyone's Tableau. Sometimes I'll go to our data engineers, our director, and be like, "Hey, what do you think?" Because they're more data side, not storytelling side. But a lot of times, since we as consultants are working at different industries, they may know Tableau, but not the topic, and so that's helpful too. Just to get a whole different perspective. Like I'm only working in finance dashboards, and this person's working in production. It's good to see each other's stuff sometimes because then you get inspiration from them too.
Yeah. And I think that'd be good if especially if they don't know the data, then they because you to the client call, so you understand the data now. But if somebody doesn't know it, they'd be like, well, how'd you get to this? Like you said, how'd you get here to here? Which, we would probably you don't know that, but of course they don't know.
Gosh, you don't know what all these abbreviations mean?
Yeah. So I think that is good. If you have that, at least, you have team members to be brainstorming with. Because some people in departments, they're the sole Tableau person in a department, right?
Yeah.
And so they're
show it to a friend. I'll show some stuff to my fiance, especially my fun stuff. Or if I'm struggling, I'm like, I don't know where this should go. I don't have room for it, in the dashboard. I'll just be like, can you look at it for a second? And he'll be like, why are you doing here? You don't need this one. That's kind of repetitive. Take that out. And he doesn't even do Tableau. So he's not even close. So sometimes just getting a friend to look at it is helpful too.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well, appreciate all the tips there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thanks for having you.